Hello again and welcome to The Luxury of Choice, a B2B sales and business podcast brought to you by the training team at George James Limited. My name is Steve Vaughan. I'm one of the training team here at George James and I'm also the host and producer of this podcast. And I'm pleased to say, after a couple of shows where we've actually brought you some repeats of earlier shows, we're back with a new content program today, mainly because finally, after all the travelling we've all been doing in the team, we're all back to our normal places of work. And today I've got Jonathan Slasinski and Jayne Green with me. So how are you both? Jonathan, I saw you in Dallas last time.
Yeah.
I saw you.
Dallas,
yeah.
And that was Vietnam before that, Portugal before that, Seattle before that, Richmond, Virginia before that. So it's been a good start to the year.
Yeah.
Busy,
super
but
busy.
Just good to be back and glad to be, talking with you all and getting another episode out there.
Absolutely. And Jayne, I saw you last week in Paris. And you've been super busy as well.
Yeah, and a bit of busy time coming up as well the next few weeks.
Of course, you've got scheduled training courses coming up, haven't you?
Yeah.
Well, let's get on with today's topic then, really. And this is a topic which comes up a lot in our sales training. And I know a lot of salespeople do find it difficult, particularly newer salespeople, to sort of conceptualize, really. And it's the concept of walking away from a sale, which probably does sound a strange thing to do. But first of all, let's just define what we actually mean by walking away. So, Jayne, what do we mean here when we say we're going to walk away? Obvious connotations mean we get up and walk away. But in terms of the sales process, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I guess it depends when we're walking away. But
Sure.
That maybe we talk about later.
Yeah.
It's that moment that we've made a decision, a strategic decision, that actually this isn't the opportunity or the lead that we want to play and take into the funnel or take further down the funnel for good reason, that actually we don't believe this is an order that we can win. And if we get to that decision, then actually it's really important that we know it is time to walk away.
Right. Great. So for newer salespeople that perhaps might not have thought about this really, we can make the decision. It doesn't always have to be the customer's decision as to which way they go. We can choose to actually say to the customer, you know what, I don't think that we're right for you or you're right for us, in not so many words. We can do that, Jonathan, can't we? It's absolutely fine.
Oh, definitely. I think that there's a couple instances of what do we consider walking away. I think the first one, Jayne kind of nailed it. It's about qualification. Are we really the right fit for them? Part of our, some of the things we train on is losing fast, losing early, right? Like being able to understand, are we the right fit? And again, as Jayne said, when is this happening? Is it down the funnel? But I also think in my career, walking away has been more about that strategic fit, right? Where yes, we do fit well with their products, but this customer could present some challenges, whether it be training, support. There's other ways that we might have to walk away depending on the customer fit versus the product fit. And I think that there's different ways to think about this.
Yeah, I think, can I just add to that? I think exactly that, because we might be able to win or we might not be able to win it, but we've got to decide whether we want to win it. It's the crucial part, isn't it?
That's a great point.
Yeah, and I think that also comes down to timing, because I think at the beginning of the quarter, you have a little bit more leeway where you're like, I don't really need to win this right now. But at the end of the quarter, it becomes more of this decision of really strategic. Again, in my career, it's been very far and few between, but I will say there's been some ones that I still remember where I'm like, oof, I should have walked away from that one, because the burden of supporting that people and just it just was very negative. I think that's it. The first thing comes down to that qualification, right? Do we have the right fit here? But then the second comes is this someone that's good for our company? Is it good for our brand? Because it is that collaborative partnership when we do sell things to people.
Absolutely.
I can remember, probably getting on for 18, 20 years ago now, I won't mention the company I was working for, but we had a tender come in for a product that we weren't, we weren't involved in the specification at all. We got this tender left field. And I will say it was for a mass spectrometer. I won't say any more than that. And we did what you should, and we just launched this product and we were just trying to get it to into the field. And we did what you should never do. We lobbed a really stupid low price in, and unfortunately the customer bought it. And then we spent 12 months trying to make it fit the application that they bought it for, with engineers and applications, and it was in Scotland, so a lot of time and effort. And after 6 months, we should never have gone this. We should have walked away. So you're absolutely right in what you're saying. Why do people find it hard to walk away, though? I think in my experience of working with salespeople in our industry, people do find it hard to walk away. Why is that, do you think?
I don't think we want to lose, right? You always want
Yeah.
to win, and you always want your product someplace, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it was, when I was working at the NIH and you go from lab to lab to lab, you'd want your stuff in those labs, so it was very
Mm.
tough to be like, oh, no, this isn't the right fit. I got to get out of here. It's like, no, there's got to be something here. And then that just becomes more energy versus kind of going to the next place. Again, that whole lose fast, lose
Yeah.
early. Where are you really where are you spending your time?
Yeah, yeah.
Were you good at losing fast and losing early, Jayne? Is it something you learned to do in your career?
Had to learn to do it. It wasn't a natural instinct because, just like Jonathan said, you want your products everywhere. You don't want to lose anything. Why? Because losing might feel like failure. So we have to deal with that, emotionally with ourselves. What does that actually mean? But I think actually it's a confidence thing to be able to say, this isn't the right fit or it's not the right time. Whatever that criteria is, having an understanding of what we're going for. But it's a really tough thing. I lost orders and I learned to walk away from orders at times, but that was always a tough one.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Sometimes I wasn't courageous enough to do it, and then you end up playing a very long game and end up possibly losing money afterwards by trying to support something that you really should have sort of said no to earlier.
Absolutely. Well, let's explore that a bit more. I mean, I gave an example from my career, but what are the consequences of not walking away at the right time? What can that mean in terms of what happens further down the sales process, John?
I think there's a couple things. First of all, it's trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, right?
Yeah, great example.
If you're pushing an opportunity down your funnel, you're keeping it in your funnel, you keep having to address it, put your sales into it. And what are you really trying to do? You're trying to fit something that might not be ideal for them just to get in there. Kind of what you were talking about, with that tender, where they had something that was a great price for them, but it didn't really fit their technical needs. And think of the headaches of service, support, you trying to get in there. Also, now the customer is starting to get upset. The customer is thinking about you and your brand.
That's an important point because we can easily think about the cost, and there was significant cost to us for engineers and applications people. But the most important person in all this, Jayne, is the customer, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's about what they actually want, and are they wanting what we can offer in terms of if we truly, really know our capabilities and we truly, really know the requirements, the solutions that would be value to the customer, does that fit? If it doesn't fit, we have some very big decisions to make, and I think sometimes customers don't tell you if it's not a direct fit straight away. They kind of play this sort of this along, not in any negative way, but they're trying to work out what it is, but we want the best fit for the customer. We want the customer, we don't want them to have our brand if it damages our brand, but actually next year we might be just the right person for a specific solution. And I think we have to really weigh that up.
That's a great point. This podcast is called The Luxury of Choice. And I think we do have that luxury of choice. It's not just about having so many great opportunities. We can pick the good ones. We also have the luxury of choice not to run with every opportunity that we pick up as well, really, isn't there? There's a sales lady I follow on LinkedIn. I hope she doesn't mind me mentioning her. Her name's Jessica Rietbrock. I think I got her name right. She calls herself the antibody queen of the North, which I love. And she wrote a post on LinkedIn a few months ago saying, I told my customer to buy from my competitor. Did I do the right thing? And I think she did. Do you agree on that?
I think she did too. Totally. I mean, It's funny. It's like we talk about, when did we learn to lose fast or lose early? It definitely wasn't in the beginning of my career, and I would say it's probably towards the end of my career where I finally gave up trying to, be, bulldog. I mean, there was this grit, like trying to always get something in there. But I will say, once I said, hey, this isn't the right solution, but being able to add value and knowing what the market was, knowing who the other players were, this could be the better solution for you.
Yeah.
That opens the door to, oh, hey, wait, we just got $50,000. What can we buy from you? That credibility. And just the fact that, hey, not now, but it's not ever, that's not ever, right? So it's like, okay, well, what else can we do? And I think that really started opening the doors for me as a sales rep when I would just leave but provide that value of, hey, this could be the better fit for you, not me. And I think that
Absolutely.
sends light bulbs off, just like the antibody, what she calls up, the antibody queen of North.
Queen of the North of
That's
England,
awesome.
Jonathan.
I know, I love that, but I think that's such a great tactic that a lot of reps they just don't understand, because it just shows your value, right? Like when you can bring to a customer something else, it's not you. Think of the emotions behind that, right? It's first of all, it's kind of tough for you to give up business, but think of the customer when they're like, wait, why isn't this person trying to sell me something?
Yeah.
Why are they trying to sell me something else? Oh, wow. That just adds so much value and credibility to you.
Yeah.
You like that one,
definitely.
Jayne?
And a
You
higher
agree with
sense of
us? Yeah?
trust. Absolutely. I mean, we spend our lives as salespeople trying to build trust and rapport with customers.
Absolutely.
And so walking away because there's a better solution, and being open enough, like Jonathan said, to actually even say, this would be a better fit for you, builds more trust.
It does.
I can't think
It's
of
back to being a
any
trusted advisor,
situation.
isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Customer thinks somebody, where somebody, the customer thinks, oh, I know, I'll speak to Jayne, I'll speak to Jonathan. I know they'll give me an honest opinion, and their opinion will be valuable to me. And it's all about having that trust, as you say. We mentioned earlier that, being able to walk away is down to the importance of qualification. And we've talked a lot about qualification on this podcast, and, look back to previous episodes on that. But what are the kind of red flags that you would look out for that would give you an indication that it might be time to consider in walking away from this particular opportunity? That one's for you both.
Yeah. Well, there's quite a lot, isn't there, in terms of red flags. One would be, and I can't get away from it, if I put myself in that situation, if I've not qualified very well, it's then, I was thinking about this earlier, it's that point of, realising what I don't know is that moment. And when I then realised, I don't know some of these things that I keep trying to, they keep talking about budget or talking about price, but I really don't understand anything about their budget or their process.
Yeah.
There's a real, if it constantly comes back to it's price driven, we've got to really work out whether this is something that is, the journey that we're prepared to go on. And is this a strategy that we want to take? Yeah.
And Jayne, I love, so this was kind of the other way that I was thinking about when to walk away, because there are those times where your solution fits their needs. It does, right? And it's great value, except when it comes down to the budget or even the negotiation.
Yeah.
Maybe competition's in there, right? Again, all part where it's at a price that just doesn't make economic sense for you to sell it at, right? And there's been times in my career where, you're up against competition, you're up against a budget, and there's a pricing that comes into it where it's like, we're not really making much money on this one if we sell it. So should we walk away? And again, I think that decision also comes down to, where are you in terms of your quota? But, is it the last week of the quarter and you need it, or is it the beginning? But I think there's definitely times where your solution is a fit for them. But when it comes down to budget and all of these other things, is it really a fit for us now? And that comes back down to that choice, right? If your margins are really low because of the budget they have, that's from a company perspective, that's when you need to start thinking about walking away, right?
Yeah.
Is this good for the company? It might be great for the customer. It might be good for you to get a sale, but is this really good long-term for the company when you're selling things at that kind of price?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. One of the things that used to sort of ring that sort of, not alarm bell, but that sort of, I think we might be being strung along here, situation was when you were getting more and more samples. We just want to run some more samples, Steve. I know we ran some samples 3 months ago, but we want to run a few more samples. Or can we run some more? Can we do a bit of a demo? Can we trial one? And you think, where's this going really? We just seem to be going on a never-ending sort of treadmill of sample running and demonstrations, and there doesn't seem to be any clear endpoint. That would send to me a feeling like, actually, perhaps we're making the numbers up on this one, or they're not really serious about buying anything or doing something different. That was one that used to sort of give me an inside feel that perhaps things weren't quite right, and I might want to walk away from that one. Do you remember that one at all?
Steve, it's funny because this is the red flag now that becomes the customer. So again, we can have a solution that fits their needs, right? Maybe we're all in their budget, but now here's the customer. I need this. I need to run more samples. I want this. I need this in the protocol. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, now the customer is becoming the red flag.
Yeah.
Can we, we might have an instrument that works for them, but are we always going to be able to meet their expectations and their needs? And now if we don't, in today's world with today's social media, I mean, if there's one thing you get wrong, it's blasted out there. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah, completely.
you're bad. The company's bad. All what? Because you didn't run one sample after you've already run 20, right? And I think that's also this thing about how do we walk away? And again, as a sales rep, it's really tough to walk away from even a customer who could be a little bit of a pain. But that's where that strategy comes down to, is like, is this worth the long run for me to have this if I have to deal with that customer, even though we meet all their needs, we met their budget, all this stuff?
Yeah. I think there's also a complete opposite to that. So that's where the customers seem to be engaging because they want to do more samples. I think there's another red flag for me is when it's really hard to get them to commit to a next step.
Absolutely.
Actually running a sample feels like a next step. It keeps me communicating with them. Massive red flag is when you get to a point when they seem really woolly about wanting what's happening next. And I think one of the big things that we can miss is we think the next step is always on us, but actually it's two-way. What commitment are they giving us? And for me, if they're not willing to take us on a next step, they're just wanting to think about it. I'll come back to you. And we're trying everything to get in there. That for me is a bit of a flag. Why they're not wanting to get something in. Yeah.
Absolutely. And around that, I guess, is when they're constantly changing the spec as well. We thought we wanted this particular spec, Steve, but now actually we decided we need an auto sampler with these many positions, or now we need this detector. And, there's just no clarity around really what it is they really want, if anything, really. That's another from, bitter experience over the years that I can recall too as well. I think we need to sort of re-emphasize on this discussion really is time is your most valuable resource as a salesperson. And I know the training you guys do as well. What I hear over and over and over again is, I don't have time to do stuff. I'm super busy, and if we spend our time working on things we're not going to win, we'll feel busy, but we're not going to be effective, are we? And every hour that we spend working on a deal we're not going to win is an hour we could be spending progressing a deal we are going to win, or dare I say prospecting for new deals, isn't it really? So I think perhaps it's a good mindset for people who perhaps are struggling with this concept. Think about it as maximizing your available time, to win the things you are going to win, really. Is there any scenario where we wouldn't walk away, even if we feel that perhaps we're making the numbers up? Is there any time we might still pursue it, do you think? Or see it through or carry on?
I used to do this with, at the NIH with government purchasing. There used to be, we need 3 quotes, right?
Okay, yeah.
And the customer might have had something in mind, right? When they put in their initial quote, and then you're there. And to me, it was always like, whoa, we meet all these specs. And you could tell by the tender what the other one, what the competitive instrument was. And that's when I wouldn't walk away. That's when I would actually go in there, try to build a relationship, figure out, hey, could I win this one? Even though, at the flip side is the customer does want something else, right? So should we respect the customer and their initial wish? But as reps, that was kind of, our battle at the NIH was figuring out how can we position ourselves to be a little bit better.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that's a good time when you shouldn't walk away. Try to get in there, try to build something from that.
Okay. Any scenarios from you, Jayne, where you wouldn't walk away even if it felt wrong?
I think if it feels wrong, it depends what feels wrong, about that. If it's because we want to know there's a fit. So we know there's a fit, but there's this pushback on, cycles when budgets come in. So that can also be a red flag, but also it can be something that we just need to, understand more. What do I need to understand more about the customer's, buying process? What gaps in my knowledge, what would make me want to stay? Because actually sometimes there are big grant cycles, and our preparation and our experience get us into an understanding of what that is. So although we might be dealing with something that actually may not be this year, sometimes we want to work away because we're so focused on making our number this year, but it also might be something that actually could be brilliant for next.
That's a super point. Yeah, great point. I think also perhaps it could be if it's a strategically right thing to do, if it means it gets us into an account, like you mentioned with NIH, Jonathan, I guess, really. If by going through with the opportunity, even though we know we're probably not going to win it, it creates awareness and visibility of what we do in the account, perhaps in an
Without a
account where we've
doubt.
never historically done business, it might still then just be a worthwhile exercise. Yeah.
I think another good point about like when not to walk away is also about this difference of, is the process just slow or is it dead, right? And it's, again, I
Yeah.
think that also comes down to understanding timeline and figuring that out. But plenty of opportunities. Oh, next quarter, it's going to come in, or next month, that's
Yeah.
and then there's ones that are where you're beating that dead horse and you're just kind of pushing them, get those out. But there are times when, hey, it's just, there's some internal things that are going on that need
Yeah.
to get, so it's very good, again, to figure out what that process is and figure out, is this really dead or is it just being dragged out? Because there are a ton of internal things that are outside, the purview of a sales rep. But the
Completely.
customer might know that, right? And again, to me, if it's taking a little bit longer than you thought, do you just give up? No. Well, let's make sure that everything's still aligned, right? Because again, it could just be a slow process versus a dead process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great point. Great point. Okay, so let's say we've made the mental conclusion that we need to walk away from this opportunity. How do we do it in a professional way that doesn't damage potential relationships or potential opportunities for when it would be the right opportunity with this customer? How do we do it? What's the approach we take?
Respectfully.
Yeah.
I think giving, the biggest danger, isn't it? We've decided that this doesn't work for us. So what we could probably end up doing exactly what we hate customers doing to us, where we just ignore them from then on. Don't do that. Do it in a respectful way.
Please don't do that. That was a do,
Yeah,
don't do, not a
no
do.
ghosting. It requires, I think it does require it. There's times I always love the face-to-face meeting.
Yeah.
And I think this does actually require a face-to-face meeting.
Absolutely.
Particularly if
this isn't an email thing.
you've been journeying with the customer. And I think it's a very honest conversation, a respectful conversation to say, given this situation or this particular criteria or this change or this thing that you want, I don't think we can meet this fully. So at this stage or until this actually may be a different requirement or a different specification or money availability, we may need to just walk away from this. And I think we have that. We make that a very personal and professional, conversation. Of course, the easiest thing to do is burn our bridges and go, we don't want to deal with you. Nightmare. We
You're
do
not
want
worthy to
deal
be
with
our
them.
customer. No.
I think it's the respecting is huge. Trying
It
to
is.
have a in-face, in-face and in-person meeting. To me, it's always about the honesty, right? So again,
Yes.
I think up front, if we are honest about the capabilities, it's a little bit easier to walk away and have that discussion. But I will say, as many reps, and even me in my career, when you're trying to fit that, that square peg into that round hole and you're going down, 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 all of a sudden you're at the point where it's like, they're ready to buy from me, but this might not be the right thing.
Yeah.
It's got to be that honest conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that will
Super.
even though it might cause some friction, in the end, it's going to be better for you to show that honesty, because maybe there's going to be something next, right?
Absolutely.
Or to me, it was always, hey, if this instrument's not the fit, I've got some consumables that can fit on any instrument. So let's, again, what else is
Great
there,
point.
right?
Great point.
You might lose the big thing, but can we get still something else around the corner on that?
That's a
But
great
respect and honesty, it's got to be it. Especially, again, and I know I've done this, and I know a lot of reps do that, when you're trying to fit that wrong fit in there because you want it in there. You just got to be honest. But it's tough. It is tough. It's tough to lose. It's tough to pull out. All those kind of emotions that go with that. But it's the right thing.
It is. And there's often a next time, you get remembered for doing the right thing, actually.
That's right.
You also get remembered for doing the wrong thing. So there could well be a next time. If we get it right, people come back to us.
With that.
Super point. Yeah. Jonathan, one of the things you're very interested in, I know as a trainer, one of your training superpowers, if I can put it that way, is emotional intelligence. Is there a role, or is there a facet that we need to think about here regarding emotional intelligence and how we play that in the decision whether to walk away or not?
Yeah, it's a couple things, right? I think the first thing is kind of, your self-management, right? So how are you feeling? How are you feeling emotionally about this, right? Like, if we know that losing is a big emotional trigger for us, how do we manage that a little bit better, right? Because if we're going to lose, we're going to have to manage that to pull out, right? The other big component of emotional intelligence that plays in here is relationship management, right? So how are we managing our emotions along with the emotions of our customers, right? In building this
Super.
relationship. Again, kind of the things we talked about. It's through conversations, it's through qualification, it's through building that trust, building that rapport. But those are the two things that really speak up to me when it comes to the emotions is knowing your own triggers. Like, you don't like to lose, you don't want to feel that. Well, we're going to have to manage that because there's a time when it's for the better. And then the best thing is just being able to manage that relationship with your customer and be on that same kind of plane. Where are they? Are they going to be upset with you or are they going to be happy with you? Right. I mean, these are all the things that we're going to see.
Super. Any thoughts from you on this, Jayne?
Yeah, I think it's that, that part in us that emotionally does not want to lose face if we've journeyed with people. But again, handling that well, putting some of that own sort of expectations on ourselves. Actually, it's not about losing face if we handle it well. We could be gaining respect. We could be gaining
Absolutely.
trust, but I don't want to lose face by walking away.
Completely. I was smiling when you were talking about how we lose, your emotional reaction to losing, Jonathan. You would think as an Aston Villa supporter, I've learned over the years how to lose, but I never play sport with me. I've broken tennis rackets, I've kicked cricket stumps down, I've kicked goalposts, I've flung my 7-iron in the lake. So never play sport with me. I'm a terrible loser.
But the good thing is when we talk about emotional intelligence, this is something we can build upon and something we can improve.
Absolutely.
So Steve, what you're doing there is you're identifying your triggers. So that's a huge part of self-management. It's a huge part of self-management is identifying those. Some people just let them go, right? But it's something we can always build on.
Love it. I think I'll book a training course with you later, Jonathan.
So are we saying at our next team meeting, then we'll be doing a little bit of sport and then Jonathan will be coaching us all afterwards.
Exactly.
With the amount of rain we've had here in the UK, the last thing I've done is play golf recently, and I need a frogman outfit to play golf at the moment. So,
oh my goodness.
It's been ridiculous. Final thought from both of you on when to walk away. Any final thoughts, tips, ideas, suggestions, any final comments? One from you, Jayne?
So I have to go back to qualifying. If we're qualifying really early and understand what our criteria is for quality, what we're actually looking for, understanding solution, understanding fit, but understanding the practical things, who could actually sign this off? What will their budget be? Are they speaking to other people? When we start to have a really clear view of what that is, then it automatically comes down to that. Do I have this information? Can I get this information? And that just gives us something early days to be able to lose fast, lose early.
Love that. Yeah. Always be qualifying. ABQ. Always be qualifying. Yeah.
I love that.
One from you, Jonathan?
Yeah, actually I have two. So the first thing is I think, we think about, our antibody queen of the North, right? It's about what value can we bring, right? So if we have to walk away, make sure we are adding that value of making the suggestion about what could be a better fit, right? But I think the toughest one for me and I've done this in my career to walk away from is just the customer that is not going to be ideal for your business moving forward. And then that becomes a strategic decision. Can we continue to support someone who is going to be so needy, who needs, the handheld, all that kind of stuff? I think you have to look at your business also from a strategic perspective. Can we fully support this person and fully do the right thing for them? Especially, as I said, when I first started my career, there was no social media where people weren't blasting the rep for not showing up or, the data was bad or things like that. You really have to think about all these things, especially when it comes to a difficult customer to walk away from.
Absolutely. Final one for me really is, as again, this podcast is called The Luxury of Choice. And as a salesperson, you do have significant choice of what you spend your time doing or where you focus your efforts. So make the best of it, really. Make the best use of that time. Focus the time on stuff you have a chance of winning and not that you're just making the numbers up, really. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, then don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast app. Also, we would love a review. If you listen to us on Apple or Spotify, you can leave us ideally a 5-star review. We'd be very, very grateful. If you want to know more about the training courses we do run here at George James, then just go to our website, George James Training, and you'll find all of our scheduled training courses for the year and also the kind of material we cover in tailored training as well. We are working on doing more LinkedIn Lives over the course of this year as well. We've had to sort of take a slight pause because the provider we used put a massive price hike through that we thought was a bit much. So we're just looking at alternatives on that, but we will come back with some LinkedIn Lives during the course of the second half of 2026 as well. And finally, just a reminder that we are interested in anybody who would like to come and join us on the panel on a podcast at any time. If you're working in the industry as a salesperson, a sales manager, and you've got an interest in a particular aspect of sales or the sales process, we'd love to hear from you. Contact me or any of the team directly if you know us, or you can email the show at podcast@georgejames-training.com. That's podcast@georgejames-training.com. Jonathan, Jayne, great to see you remotely after seeing you both for real over the last couple of weeks. We'll see you again soon. And for you, the listener out there, happy selling, and we'll talk to you soon.